Welcome back to Eye on the Eagles, Episode 8. I am Darien Minor, and I am here with Coach Marc Benavidez of Avila Football. Coach, you had another really good weekend for you. We played Tabor College this past weekend, and we wound up with a 59-0 win. Just kind of talk about some of the things that went right for you guys this weekend.
Yeah, just about everything did, honestly. It's something that is very proud, or a proud moment as a coach to see, all three phases of the game clicking, knowing that, other than just 59-0 is a great score to have, obviously. Your defense is balling out, offense is balling out, but also seeing that the opposing team had 0 net rushing yards on the game is huge because you win games in the trenches. And also on offense, we had a total of 600 total yards. And so, again, winning games in the trenches, we could run the ball, we could throw the ball, and then seeing, our kicker, I believe, had 11 points, special teams across the board, seeing guys flying down on kickoff and punt, on the one rep that we had for punt. They're just a good overall day, seeing those guys go out there and perform.
Now, I watched a lot of Avila football games in my day, but I don't think I've ever seen the other team go scoreless, even when we won by a large margin. What does it say for your defense that they didn't lose focus at all during that game on Saturday?
It was great. I mean, like right now, us coaches are making a game plan, and just knowing that Coach Alexander had a great game plan, and seeing our guys go out there and execute, and even whenever some of those quote-unquote second-team guys were in there, seeing them ball out and make plays was great. I mean, especially the young guys we already had. Just an exciting time as a coach, seeing guys go out there. Last time we had a shutout was actually my very first college game. So I've been here quite a while, I guess you can say now, and just kind of seeing how the program itself has changed from my freshman year as a college athlete to now being a head coach. It's just a great experience.
This weekend, you guys have St. Mary's University, which is a rescheduled game due to some of the COVID factors that happened during the season. Is your preparation kind of the same from the first time? Is there any carryover?
Yeah, so when we're going to go into that game earlier in the year, we had 0 film on them, so we didn't really know what to expect completely on offense and defense and special teams. So now we do have some more film. So we already had an idea from a game planning perspective based off personnel, who they had on their 2 deep. But it's definitely changing right now because of having film from this past week and then playing Ottawa, then playing Tabor. Southwestern. And so game plan has changed. But with that being said, despite the success we had this past weekend, I mean, it's still another game. So that was a great win, but now we're literally on to the next one. We got to make sure we're still staying focused despite the success we had this past weekend.
Now having that new film on St. Mary's, what are kind of some of the keys for you guys to come out with this win this next weekend?
Well, I think a big one, again, our guys executing. It's something we'll say every single week. I'm confident we're going to have a game plan where we can put guys in position to have success and win the game. And then, again, some of this past weekend, the trenches, offense and defense line, that's how you win games. Our guys have been doing a great job up front last few games and showing. If we can do that, protect the quarterback, get the ball in our playmakers' hands on offense and on defense, do whatever we can to eliminate them from running the football and make their quarterback make plays, we'll have success.
Well, thank you for being here with us, Coach. Can't wait to see you guys continue this role you've been on, and we'll see you with the next interview with Coach Eric Majors. Welcome back to Eye on the Eagles, sponsored by J.M. Fahey Construction Company. We are now here with Coach Eric Majors of Avila Volleyball. Coach, how you doing?
Doing good.
Man, I feel like I said a lot, but you guys play some good volleyball, win or lose.
Yeah, we've had a good last week. Played Kansas Wesleyan, and we're starting to really hit our stride right now, so I'm excited.
Yeah, you guys actually beat Kansas Wesleyan in straight sets. As a coach, I know it feels good because you always told me one time you guys are going to put it all together and just roll one.
Yeah.
So what were the keys to that, and how did that make you feel to see that finally happen?
Well, the biggest key that what we've put together is we're not afraid to be down. And we have come back quite a few times, but this time we were down 24-20 game point on the first set, and I didn't even really notice that we were down that far, and I don't think our team did either, and we just chipped it away and boom, 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 and I think we won 26-24, which is pretty difficult to do. So I think that's the number one thing. The other thing too is that our pin hitters are really hitting the ball for points now. And if you look at our offense, it's very balanced, and they'll key on one player, and then the other player has to step up, and that's what we did against them. So it was a great game for us.
I'm not sure if you know this yet, but you have another KCAC Player of the Week.
No, I don't know that.
See, breaking news, and Aspen Kreitner.
Oh, great.
Even though we know you're such a great coach, how much easier does it make it that you have players who consistently on a week-to-week basis stand up and show out on a conference-wide level?
Well, that's the whole key is consistency. So one thing Aspen has been ever since I've been here is almost the same player every day. Every once in a while she'll have a little hiccup, but it's very rare. And when you have those people that you can rely on every day, it just makes coaching way easier because then you can focus on other things to get those parts of the game better. So I'm so excited for her. Yeah, she definitely was pretty amazing the other day. Really a great performance. So
the next games on you guys' schedule is MNU, I believe for JV and varsity. So what are kind of the keys and to take away a win and kind of keep this streak going for the Avila volleyball team?
So MNU is a strong program right now. They just beat Central Methodist, which I believe was a top 20 program in 3. And so very well coached team. This is going to be I think it'll be a great game. I think it'll be very close. And I'm looking forward to it. These kind of games you want to play. And we're going to have to play well to take it. Can we can. But it's going to be a challenge, so looking forward to it.
Well, no matter what, we know the Eagles will show up and fight. Yeah. And that will do it for our segment with Coach Eric, and we will see you on the next one. Stay tuned.
Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 8 of the Eye on the Eagles podcast. I'm Tim Hackett, joined now by head women's soccer coach Katie LaForge. And Coach, another strong weekend for you guys defensively again. Right back at it, a 2-1 win over Sterling, and you guys, controlled possession, controlled the flow of the game. At least to me, how do you feel that everything went?
Yeah, I think we did that. I do feel like we took in stride the fact that we were on a different surface. So playing on grass versus playing on turf can kind of change how your team ends up kind of playing. So I think that the girls did a good job of transitioning on the surface. And then also making some adjustments at halftime as far as understanding what the opponent was kind of giving us. And I do feel after the whole 90 minutes that we did dominate play. So
I didn't even think about the surface being a factor. Do you hear that in baseball, for example, having a big impact, but can a change in surface have a huge impact in soccer as well?
Yes, absolutely. And when you're on the turf fields, they're kind of the standard size, and when you get onto the grass surfaces, they can it's within a range. And so this particular field was short, but it was full width. So not only the size of the field, but also the surface, especially when it comes to how the ball bounces. So if you can imagine on turf, when the ball bounces, it gets a lot higher on the bounce as opposed to on grass where it's a little bit more of a cushion. I would say that and your passes are a little bit quicker on turf, but I would say on grass surfaces you see a little bit more the attempt to pass over dribbling, because dribbling on grass can be, if you're not used to it, it can get stuck under your feet. So if anything, that boded well for us because I do like to see the girls play a more possession-based style. So they weren't in a position to be able to dribble out of trouble all the time. They had to think and pass their way out of it. So it ended up working out in our favor and kind of forced our girls to practice it, really.
Do you think you have people that are used to playing on those different kinds of surfaces? Because I imagine people are more used to playing one way versus another, or is that wrong? Do people play all over the place?
Yeah, so it really just depends. So Sterling, obviously they train on the grass all the time. Oklahoma Wesleyan have a grass field. York have a grass field. But I would say for the rest, I'm pretty certain that the rest of our conference is all turf. So And we, here at Avila, we train on the turf, and it is very different, especially if you have any weather whatsoever. As soon as there's any moisture on the turf, it gets even faster. So sometimes you see where we're playing on grass, the game slows down a little bit as far as the ball rolling out of bounds. So it stays in play more, so you don't see as many throw-ins or corners or goal kicks because the ball's just not leaving the field as much because the play is just a little bit slower. So yeah, you do get used to playing on a certain surface. So luckily we had some space here that we were able to at least get on a patch of grass here on Friday before seeing Sterling on Saturday, and I do feel like it helped at least get the girls to turn their brains on, like, oh, I'm going to be on a different surface tomorrow, maybe I need to play differently.
That was what I was going to ask you, is how you guys specifically prepared, because I know there are other schools in the conference that way you've already played at Elko and Wesleyan this year, but since you play on turf normally, like, what do you have to do as a coach and as a team to prepare for playing on a different surface?
I think we just have to, when us as a coaching staff are scouting the other team, I didn't want to watch Sterling play on a turf surface because that's not going to be what we're going to get. And typically, not all teams, but sometimes you'll see a difference in the way a team plays on turf versus grass. So we specifically watched games where they were at home on grass. And so we were able to kind of help the girls understand what they were doing and kind of give them some help as to figuring out any problems they may come across on Saturday. And the only other real tangible thing that we can give them is to change the surface for them. So actually get them on grass so that they can feel a little bit more comfortable. But at the end of the day, really, it's just a mental thing. So all week we just reminded them, hey, different surface. We're gonna have to. You also have to push. You also have to hit your passes harder to each other. Because if you hit a ball too slow on turf, it'll get there, but on grass it can hold up and sometimes put you in a negative position. So just kind of reminding that sort of stuff. But really the only thing we could do is get them on the grass surface, which I think did overall help them. Speaking
of the game itself, it ended up in a 2-1 score, but something that you had mentioned is that, if we're speaking honestly, then maybe that scoreline was a little bit closer than perhaps you feel what the pace of the game or the script of the game dictated, right?
Yeah, and that's the beauty and the curse of soccer. It makes for an exciting game because the scoreline never got so far away that Sterling ever felt like they were out. Yeah. And I've always told the girls that 2-0 is the worst lead in soccer. And they know. When I quiz them, they know now. But yeah, I think that overall, if I were to go back and look at, possession or pass completion, I would say we were probably like somewhere in the 60 to 70% range of possession versus, the 30-40% that they had. And that doesn't always translate into wins. Sure. But I think in this particular game, it obviously did in the end. But, just if I didn't know the scoreline and just watched the game, it was we were dictating play. We were impressing what we wanted to on them. We were creating many opportunities and only allowed them a handful of opportunities. Yeah,
only one of those opportunities actually went on goal. And that to me seemed to be like the biggest takeaway from an outsider. Yeah. It was one shot on goal the entire game. You could say Madison Baker didn't have to make any saves and you still won. That seems unusual.
Yes, it is. So I think, again, that speaks to the idea that we probably had about that 60 to 70% possession. So, the longer you have the ball, the less time they get to be on the ball. So I think our midfield did a really nice job of intercepting passes to really even thwart them getting any, building any opportunities to allow their forwards in. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, the one goal that they did give up, it was an errant pass that was intercepted. So, if from my perspective as a coach, the opportunities that kind of were that Sterling did get, it was more of a mistake from us, or, you know, I don't want to say gift, but sometimes you give them the opportunities, and they're a good enough team that they'll at least be dangerous and threatening. So, but again, we kept those minimum. Obviously, only one shot on goal. They did have some shots, but not on target. So, yeah, it was an interesting day.
I think it was interesting that you brought that up, because that was how you guys scored your first goal, was an intercepted pass in midfield. You turned that into a transition the other
Correct.
way. Eden Fridlington sets up Megan Nugent. She sets up Hannah Coates for a header. 1-0
Yep.
lead. What a weapon Hannah Coates has been off the bench.
She's turned out, you know, this year, you know, coming off the bench too is a huge thing. So, you know, she's just taken all of her opportunities and all of her minutes, and really made the most of them. I didn't doubt that Hannah could do that. But sometimes, especially as a forward, it comes down a lot to the service that you get.
Sure.
And so being able to have your midfield, you know, be, you know, thinking well ahead of play and able to intercept those passes. And then obviously the service from Nugent this year has been great as well. And we've had multiple people putting in quite a few assists this year. So, you know, just generating more. Hannah Coates will literally throw her body at anything to make it happen. So I think I'm pretty sure all of her goals have not been with her feet. Maybe her second one, but I know for sure her McPherson goal was her head, and then her head on Saturday. So, but yeah, it's always in traffic.
Yeah,
It's,
touch her in
you know,
traffic.
she has that like killer instinct, you know, and just won't let an opportunity by her, and I do really appreciate that about her.
Your second goal came from Amara Sigler, and I guess it's kind of my fault that it's taken us so long to talk about her on this
Yes.
episode. Her versatility to me is just, and goes for a lot of players on your team, because she's a forward technically, right? We've seen her
Yes.
at forward, but we've seen her at forward. We've seen her in the midfield. She was left back
Yes.
this last game, helped spearhead that defense that only allowed the one shot on goal,
Yes.
and scored her first career goal in the game. Really virtuoso effort, I guess, from her.
Yes. So, and then by the end of the game, she was also center back.
Okay.
So, yes, she is. So this is one of the biggest things that even just recruiting in general that is so valuable to a coach. And, you know, it's great to be really, really good at one position. But when your coach got a couple people in quarantine, got some injuries, you know, it's such a really, there wasn't a stressful moment putting her anywhere on the field, which I would say is pretty extraordinary considering that she's just a freshman. But her mentality is what she does not let anything get to her. She's cool, obviously cool as a cucumber, as she just stepped up, and because obviously Megan Nugent has throughout the season been our kind of PK taker. I've always been of the mindset that I want players to step up to that pressure moment that want to be there. So I'm not, you know, even though I think that somebody could take a PK and do it very well, at the end of the day, I don't want to force anybody to do that. So to see her really take initiative, because Megan was not on the field at the moment, that again speaks to her mentality, just unafraid of anything, willing to do anything that's asked of her, which again translates into moving her literally all over the field. So I think the versatility aspect really just makes her even more dangerous, because I would assume teams try to scout us just as much as I scout them, and she's one of those players that it's like, well, she could be anywhere today. So it's been really nice, and it was just an excellent performance from her, just overall, even given how many positions I put her in.
En route to being named the KCAC Defensive Player of the Week, second time in a couple of weeks
Yay.
that your team has wrangled in that honor.
Yes.
I was going to ask you actually how it was determined that she would be the person to take the penalties. Like you said, Megan Nugent had been the one to attempt all of them so far to this point in the season.
Correct.
And so she wasn't on the field. That means she's obviously not eligible.
Right.
So how did you decide that Sigler would be the person to take it?
She did it herself.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, in the moment initially, I was like, okay, Nugent's going to take it. And I was like, oh, wait. We are only a couple minutes in the second half, and she's not on the field at the moment. So I just watched the group I watched the group because Itzel obviously got drew the foul. And so for a moment I thought maybe Itzel would do it. She's a senior, she's taken it before. Sometimes it's kind of an unwritten rule in soccer that whoever draws that PK kind of has first dibs on whether or not they want to take it. Most of the time if you're drawing a PK, someone got you pretty good, so like you maybe need a few moments to like walk it off. But yeah, initially Maggie Davis grabbed the ball as a junior, so and she, and we've practiced them in practice before, but Siggy was playing, Amaris, we call her Siggy. She was playing in the back, so obviously this all went down in the box, and I just see her jogging up, and then the ball was in her hands, and she put it down, and there was no. Seemed to be no question with the players on the field whether or not that was how it was going to go down. So, and again, I have no problem with somebody being confident and stepping up because it is a high pressure situation. I think statistically you should make your PK, but anything can happen in that moment. Again, the surface is something that we technically didn't practice PKs on a grass field. So, yeah, she just literally, they all did it on their own, which as a coach is like awesome to see.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I didn't even, that part of the game really interests me personally. I know a lot of people feel the same way. How decisions are made by coaches or by players, and they just made that decision kind of naturally as a team. Like you didn't say anything. This wasn't your number 2 option necessarily, if to put it that way. A backup plan, if you will. That was just how it came about in the moment. That's pretty amazing.
This is true. Yeah, I mean, like I said, we practiced PKs before, so I think everyone had an idea of the the level of desire of each player to be put in that situation. Sure. So, and Siggy has showed all year that, and she'll take our corners sometimes when Megan Nugent isn't in, and so I think everyone was just on the same page as far as like, all right, she wants to take it, so let's give it to her. So, and she converted, which is even better.
And it ended up being the game-winning goal as well.
It did,
so
yes.
You talk about a high-pressure situation, ended up being even more so.
Yeah.
So 2 straight wins for you guys now, back-to-back 2-1 score lines, coincidentally enough. Mm-hmm. But another game coming up this weekend on the road again against Tabor. What can you tell us about that?
Yes. Tabor's an interesting squad. So we, in the past 2 years, I think we split. We lost to them my first year, and then I believe that we beat them last year. So they are notoriously very well organized. They work very hard. They have 2 or 3 very talented individuals that can really take over a game if you let them. I wouldn't say that there's anything that they do as far as formation that's really out of the ordinary or anything like that, but they don't give up. So that makes them a very dangerous opponent in my mind, because the game is never won with them until that final whistle. So they're always a tough opponent, and I respect their coaches as well. He really gets them to do some good stuff and play some nice soccer. So they're also on a turf surface, so at least that will be something we don't have to totally rearrange this particular week. But yeah, it'll be interesting. It's a very important game for us, because we kind of lost a couple games early on, especially based on how we think that the conference will finish. So for us, this is a really important game for us as far as setting us up to be in a really good position once conference tournament kind of finally makes its way around.
Whenever that actually.
Yeah, whenever that. Yeah.
that's a long ways out yet.
It is.
We'll cross
It
that.
is.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yep.
But the next step leading up to that bridge this Saturday against Tabor, kickoff for the women's game starts at 2. Men's game to follow at about 4:30. And as always, you can find the links to watch that live stream on avilaathletics.com. Welcome on back to episode 8 of the Eye on the Eagles podcast, sponsored by J.M. Fahey Construction Company. I'm your host, Tim Hackett, joined now by head men's basketball coach Bill Sloan. And Coach, a really solid start to the season for your guys, 2-1 through your first 3 games. Let's dip back into the time machine a little bit and go back to game 1 against Baptist Bible College. A solid performance from your guys against a team that I certainly didn't know a whole lot about. I think you said more or less the same thing the last time we talked with you. So how do you feel that your season opener went last week?
It went in the right column. That's about the best thing that happened. We did not play well and turned it over 22 times and we shot it well and guarded well at times, but we didn't play as well as we can play.
How much do you attribute like some of those turnovers, I guess, to just the fact that it was the first game of the season?
I don't attribute them to any. We had some unbelievable turnovers. I've never seen anything like it. Throw it straight out of bounds. It was not good. It was just not a good start.
So what did you guys do? What did the guys do to kind of counterbalance that, I guess, and then make sure it ended up in the right column, like you said?
Well, like I said, we shot it well, and we guarded well at times. That team's averaging close to, like they played Sterling after they played us and scored 110.
Oh, geez.
So they had 76 against us, and we normally we kind of pride ourselves on how we play defense. Not to fast forward, but last night was not one of those nights. But first couple of nights, we guarded pretty well.
No doubt. Offensively, I guess, against Baptist Bible College, I just want to make sure I hit this because it was remarkable to me because as an outsider watching the game, what happened was exactly what you said would happen preseason. We got to see on full display the balanced scoring, some of the rotation, a lot of the sharing of the ball, good shooting, good defense, like you said. It was just kind of amazing to me how evident that was in game 1. I mean, all five starters finished in double-figure scoring. It seemed like to a T exactly what you were looking for, at least in that regard.
Yeah, that's how we have to play. We had a couple guys, one with 9 and a 7 and a 6, so it was pretty spread out. And it's been that way, through all the games so far. The scoring's been spread out, and we have to. That's how we have to play. We got to get it from everybody, not just one guy. Last year, we could ride a guy because we knew he could score whenever we wanted him to, and this year it's got to be spread out, and they've done a really good job of that so far.
You had a little bit of that big game performer, I guess, in game 2 against Central Methodist. You got Tyree King off and running. He had a season-high 25 points to help lead you guys to a win in game 2.
Yeah, Tyree's capable of doing that every night. He's a really good athlete. You watch, he's smooth, so you don't think he's moving quite as quick as he is. But his first step is pretty big time. When he decides he's going to go, he's going to get by you most times. And he finishes at the rim. He's a really good free throw shooter. And he shot it well from 3 in that game too. He's a good all-around player. He's an all-conference caliber guy when he plays the way he can, plays up to his ability level.
I knew he was somebody that you were really excited about coming in. Obviously, a former football player at Emporia State, now joining your ranks as a basketball player. Got to show some of that explosiveness, the athletic ability that you have talked to me about, and obviously some of the finishing ability to help lead the way.
Yeah, he's a good player. He just is, and he's just going to get better as the more he plays. He hasn't played basketball in a couple of years, so as the season goes on, he'll just get better and better, more consistent. As we go along.
How about more generally then against Central Methodist? Because they were expected to be a pretty solid team. They had 1 or 2 good results over the course of the season already, but you guys ended up playing them pretty strong, come back from a small halftime deficit, end up winning comfortably.
Yeah, the second half, we really did a good job guarding them in the second half of that inning, and we shot it well again too. We have the ability to shoot it. We got a lot of guys that can make shots, and when we're on, and we play guard, we're a pretty solid team.
We talked about in the first game how all 5 of your starters had their moments, but I thought in the second game, especially off the bench early on, you got to see something from a couple of important role players. At least that's what it seems like to me. Clarence Johnson and Dylan DeShazer both were able to come in and give you some big contributions in the first half.
Yeah, CJ played the best he's ever played here. I mean, he was really good. He made good decisions and hit a couple shots, and finished at the rim. And he has great athleticism. When we get it figured out, where he can figure out how to use that athleticism in a productive fashion, he's got a chance to be a really good player.
Yeah. And then it was kind of interesting to me, game script-wise, how similar those first 2 games were. Trail a little bit early, battle back, and keep pace for the entire rest of the first half. Trail by 2 points, not much, at the halftime break, and then turn it around in the second half, win by double digits both times. Kind of interesting how that worked.
Yeah.
What was kind of the key to the second half turnaround in those 2 games?
And we just guarded better.
Yeah.
In the second half. I kind of skipped over Dylan there. Dylan played really well at Central Methodist. He hit both of his free throws, I believe, and it was perfect from the field as well. And he played really well. We need him to step up and play a role off the bench to do exactly what he did against Central Methodist.
In the next game against Benedictine over this past Monday, a little bit of the same early, trail early, then you go out to a big lead in the first half, then you battle down the stretch of the first half, trail by single digits at the halftime break, but then didn't get the second half comeback this time against a really, really good Raven team. What changed?
Yeah, we just, the first half, I don't know how many lead changes there were, but there were a lot.
At least 6, as I recall.
It went back and forth. They would run out a little bit, then we'd catch up and run out a little bit, and then it just kept going back and forth. And like you said, I'll give credit where it's due. I mean, they're pretty good, and they're gonna do well in their league. Coach Moody does a really good job there, and they have good players, and he's able to do it in a way where they have guys in the program for 4 years, and now they've got those guys now, and they're going to be tough to deal with. They're a good team, and they just kind of overwhelmed us in the second half. They got ahead, and unlike the first 2 games, we couldn't come back in the second half, and we didn't compete as well as we should have in the second half. And that's, in my opinion, that's what it was. We got behind, and instead of fighting back like we normally do, which we're kind of known to do on a toughness level, we didn't do that last night for whatever reason, and we're going to address that here in just a little bit when we get down on the floor.
Sure. What did go well, at least against Benedictine, was the 3-point shooting. It was insane. Brandon Phillips especially, but as a team, I think 9 made threes in the first half, and then nearly 40% from beyond the arc as a team over the course of the game. Those are insane numbers, and was pretty much the biggest reason that it was a close game throughout the first half, right?
Yeah. The first 2 games we got to the free throw line a bunch of times and didn't shoot as many threes. Last night, and we discussed it during the game and at halftime many times during the game about attacking the basket and getting to the rim. And I think we shoot five free throws last night. That's ridiculous. We were just settling for jump shots, and the first half they went in for the most part. We take 22 threes in a half. That's not the way you play. We were lucky to be in the game, in my opinion, at halftime because we settled for jump shots. Now, Brandon hadn't shot the ball well the first couple games, but he shot it well last night, and he got in some foul trouble, but that limited his minutes. But moving forward, if he shoots the ball like he did last night, which he's capable of doing every night, he's a really good shooter, in my opinion. And if he shoots like that, that's going to help us a bunch down the road.
You got to see it a little bit from last thing on this game. You got to see something from two more good shooters off the bench, though, coming off and having season high performances, shooting the deep ball well. Kind of was the theme of the game, like I said, but you got to see something from two other guys, right?
Yeah, Hunter Hug came in, and you know, he's a kid, he's a freshman, but he's really got a good understanding of the game and how to play, where to be. He always seems to be like in the right spot and gets deflections and intercepts passes and his offensive rebounds, makes the right cut. I mean, he's got a good idea of how to play, and he played really well last night. He had one little issue that again we'll address today, but other than that, he was really good last night, and he's got a chance to be a really good player here over the next 4 years.
Absolutely, we got to see that firsthand yesterday with a team high 20 points, all coming off the bench, including like 3 or 4 made threes from him. That was impressive.
No, it was, yeah.
All right, now next up this week, conference play starts, at least temporarily. You've got 2 conference games coming up during the rest of this 3-game week, starting off on Wednesday at McPherson, and then capping off a busy week for you guys on Friday for the home opener against Bethel. So first off, what can you tell us about the Bulldogs?
Well, I just finished watching them all morning today, and they're good. I can't remember where they got picked in the league, but I think they're going to be right at the top when it's all said and done. Their experience, they're athletic, they play hard, they guard, and they pressure, and they play a lot of people. And coach has got them believing in what they do, and got them all to buy into that limited minute system. And they're going to be tough. They're going to be tough.
And Friday's the home opener again. We're all really excited for you and the ladies' side, and that's Bethel coming to town, predicted to be one of the better teams in the league. What can you tell us about them?
Yeah, they're good too. They're experienced. They return the leading rebounder in the nation, Jalen Scott, from last year, and he was Defensive Player of the Year in our league, and he's a handful. And they got other good players too. They're going to be right at the top of the league as well.
Something that I was really impressed by, just from chatting with some of your guys over the last couple of days, was how plugged in to the league they are. You know, they were saying, this team looks really good. This team's, got all their players back. This team lost a lot. This team, they knew a lot of the results. Like, this team lost to this team. I can't believe that happened. Or this team should have won. Not saying I didn't expect them to know anything. That's not at all what I'm saying. But how plugged in they were, how invested and how interested they were, not just in what your team is doing, obviously that's number one, but knowing what everybody else in the league, knowing about personnel and roster and all that stuff. You guys haven't even played a conference game yet. So that was just something that stood out to me. I was really impressed.
Yeah, you said it, invested is what they are. I mean, most everybody in that locker room cares about what we do and how we do it and the way we do it. And they know who we're playing, and they watch film on their own outside of what we do. And so they have a really good idea who has what, and they have access to film of everybody in the league and everybody we play. So they kind of do a little extra credit work with that. And I told them last night, we didn't play well last night, but we'll get that figured out. I really like this group. They're great kids. They play hard. They do what we ask them to do, and for the most part, you trust them on the floor. We kind of at times turn it over to them, and because they know what we want and how we want things done, and most times that works out pretty well. But they're a really good group. I enjoy being around them every day, and it's just a good group of kids.
We're looking forward to actually seeing them here in person in the Kansas City area for the first time coming up on Friday. But tickets are available for the game at McPherson coming up on Wednesday night. And tickets are, of course, available for the home opener coming up this Friday. The women's game starts at 5. The men's game starts at 8. You can find links to those live streams, as always, as well as links to get your tickets right now on AvilaAthletics.com. Coach Sloan, thank you for being here. For Darien Minor and for all of us here at Avila Athletics, I've been Tim Hackett. We'll see you next time. This has been Eye on the Eagles, brought to you by JM Fahey Construction Company. So long.